Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. We're broadcasting this evening in unseasonably cold weather from Las Vegas, site of the deadliest mass shooting in American history. It's been 2 months since Stephen Paddock murdered 58 people. It happened right behind where I'm sitting right now. And despite a lengthy and expensive investigation, a huge number of unanswered questions, some of them the most basic questions about that shooting, remain unanswered. We've come here in a search for answers, and we're going to devote a portion of the show to that in a minute. But first, it's among the great ironies in recent history, certainly the recent history of American criminal justice, an FBI probe begun to find corruption in government may simply have exposed corruption within the FBI itself. In the last few days, we have learned a great deal about a man called Peter Strzok. Until recently, Strzok was deputy head of counterintelligence at the FBI. For the past 2 years, he was central to investigations into both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Last summer, Strzok was abruptly pulled off Robert Mueller's team of investigators. This didn't become public for months, but it happened. The FBI won't explain why it happened, even when asked directly by the Congress. Now we know it happened because Strzok was sending highly political text messages to his mistress, who also worked at the FBI, messages praising Hillary Clinton and denigrating Donald Trump. Now, why does this matter exactly? Well, because everything about Peter Strzok's job was essentially political. Strzok was the man who signed off on starting the current Russia investigation, the one that has totally overtaken the federal government. Strzok was also the official who altered James Comey's statement to avoid criminally implicating Hillary Clinton in her now famous server investigation. In other words, Strzok's political opinions mattered. In fact, they may have changed American history. And to illustrate it, consider this. Consider how Agent Strzok handled 2 different series of interviews in criminal investigations. According to a new piece by Chuck Ross of the Daily Caller, Strzok was the agent who personally interviewed Hillary Clinton's top aides, Cheryl Mills and Huma Abedin, during the server investigation. Government notes from those interviews show that Abedin told the FBI she had no idea that Hillary Clinton was maintaining a private email server, in fact, only learned about it in the media. Mills, for her part, went even further than that. She claimed that not only did she not know about Hillary's server, she had no clue what an email server was. Here's the problem. It looks like both Mills and Abedin lied. In a 2010 email to Abedin, Cheryl Mills wrote this, quote, "HRC email coming back, is server okay?" End quote. So it turns out Cheryl Mills knew exactly what a server was. A year later, Bill Clinton aide Justin Cooper emailed Huma Abedin to say he had shut down Hillary's server in response to a hacking attempt. Cooper also explicitly told the FBI in his own interview that he'd discussed Clinton's email server with Huma Abedin in 2009 while that server was being set up. Any reasonable person would conclude that both Mills and Abedin were lying baldly when they told the FBI they knew nothing about Clinton's email server. Lying to the FBI, as we've all just been reminded, is a felony. Yet neither Mills nor Abedin was charged or prosecuted for that. Former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn must be looking on at all this in bewilderment. Agent Strzok, it turns out, interviewed him too. But unlike Hillary Clinton's aides, Michael Flynn didn't get a pass. Flynn just pled guilty to a serious federal crime. His life has been destroyed. He's had to sell his house to pay his legal bills. 2 cases, same crime, wildly different outcomes. What do the 2 have in common? Well, one highly political FBI agent. All of this raises the question, what other cases has Agent Strzok influenced in recent years? The public has a right to know the answer to that immediately. The FBI belongs to voters, not to Peter Strzok and his friends. The FBI doesn't see it that way, of course. From their perspective, you've got a right to shut up and do what you're told. And by the way, you'll stop asking so many questions if you know what's good for you. This is exactly how the secret police start, when law enforcement agencies decide to do the bidding of politicians rather than pursue impartial justice on behalf of the public. We ought to nip this nightmare in the bud right now. Dan Bongino is a former NYPD officer, and he joins us tonight. So, Dan, obviously, most Americans don't want to think badly of the FBI or to suspect that politics are behind key decisions in investigations. Sure. But I am sincerely baffled as to how Huma Abedin and Cheryl Mills could apparently lie in their interviews to the FBI and escape any kind of penalty, and Michael Flynn lies and pleads to a felony charge. How can that be?
Because, Tucker, this is the weaponization of your government and mine. As a former federal agent and someone who worked inside the White House, if you're not scared of your government tonight, this case should at least tickle you a little bit and wake you up. Donald Trump's crime, make no mistake at this point, was winning this presidential election. Tucker, let's walk through just quickly how this started. This was all based on a crime, and I'm using the dreaded air quotes here, of a violation of the Logan Act. An act that has never been successfully prosecuted in the history of the constitutional republic, which says that private citizens can't negotiate with foreign governments. Really? Why isn't Jimmy Carter in jail for going to visit the Palestinians? Why isn't Jesse Jackson in jail for going to North Korea? The answer is because nobody took it seriously.
Or Barack Obama, who's abroad negotiating global warming agreements in effect all the time, or Bill Clinton, or any former president, including Ronald Reagan. I mean, you're right. It's ridiculous.
Obama, who was just overseas doing that, by the way. This, and who started this whole thing with the Logan Act, according to multiple reports I've seen out there now? Sally Yates, who then used the premise of violating the Logan Act, a largely fictitious crime no one's ever been prosecuted with, used that as a premise to go to the White House and say, well, Mike Flynn is now subjected, could potentially be bribed because he violated a crime no one's ever been prosecuted for. Tucker, this is a frightening case. And then double that down with Andrew Weissman and Jim Comey. Jim Comey, who acknowledged starting the special counsel after he was fired by leaking sensitive data to the press. This case stinks. It's a scam, it's a sham, and it should scare every American, regardless of your political stripes.
So I guess what confuses me is the lack of oversight. For whatever reason, and honestly, I'm confused by it, the executive branch, the White House, and the leadership of the DOJ haven't done a lot to rein them in. But the Congress also has oversight over the FBI. And it's not clear to me why FBI officials who refuse to answer basic questions like what's in Strzok's texts, why they're not being held in contempt of Congress.
Yeah, what's doubly frightening about this, Tucker, is they're stonewalling on congressional requests for information, and they're looking at potentially by Devin Nunes being held in contempt of court. Think about what we're talking about here, Tucker. The branch of government most intimately related to the people, the House of Representatives, elected every 2 years. They represent the smallest number of people at the federal level. These are the accountable entities. They have said, the representatives of the people, the FBI, give us this information now. There is something going on, and we demand as representatives of people to know it. And the FBI, not a knock on the men and women, I'll be crystal clear, they're wonderful. I've worked with them. They're great. FBI management, someone there who's been infected with the political bug, has said, nah, we're just not going to abide by that. I mean, what are you operating, a shadow government? Are you serious? Congress has demanded answers and you're just saying, no, we're not going to do it?
I don't understand why everyone seems so passive in the face of this. I mean, this is a perversion, one of the institutions that most Americans respect and want to respect, the FBI, but also it's the most powerful federal agency. I mean, they can destroy your life in an afternoon. Why is no one stepping forward to rein them in?
You know, that's a great point, Tucker. I mean, if you're a Democrat in Congress watching this show right now, I know we've got them. Aren't you worried? The government is so powerful right now that the most powerful man in the world, Donald Trump, the president, can do nothing to stop this investigation, this sham investigation from coming after him. If you're a Democrat, aren't you a little worried right now that may boomerang back on you? Conservatives have been worried about this for years. It's time for liberals to wake up and shut this disaster down. This is a political witch hunt at its worst. It's an international disgrace right now, what's going on. We're being embarrassed on the global stage. This is not an investigation. This is a scam.
Liberals used to worry about things like that before they took power. Now they just benefit from them. Dan, thanks very much for that.
Yes, sir.